DCASA. What in the world is it? Well, good afternoon to you. Welcome to Money Matters, brought to you by DCGsa. Today, we're talking about the two-pot retirement withdrawals. Billions we're taking out. But did it actually fix people's financial problems? Well, we're going to find out. And to answer the question, joining me here in studio is someone with exciting news. Brand new president of DCASA, aka DCGsa, ladies and gentlemen, Casper Lagrange. Welcome, Casper, and congratulations, man. Hey.
Hey, Mr. K, thank you for that big build-up, eh? DCGsa, Debt Counsellors Association of South Africa, the oldest and biggest debt counselling association in South Africa, and it's really quite a privilege. Thank you so much.
Very well earned, Casper. Now, let's talk two-pot. Okay, wait, before we get into two-pot, let's talk about DCGsa. Tell us a bit more about it.
Well, DCGsa is the Debt Counsellors Association of South Africa.
Yep.
It's obviously a professional body
Yep.
For debt counsellors across South Africa, and we obviously engage with the regulators, providers. We improve industry standards, we advocate for consumer protection, and we help shape policy decisions. So we regularly interact with bodies, obviously, like the National Credit Regulator, to ensure that the system protects consumers properly.
Fantastic. So why is DCGsa so close to your heart?
Oh, Mr. K, that's quite a deep question. I think the industry is not just about numbers, it's about everything that goes with it. Remember, debt counselling is really a lifeline. Families that's under pressure, parents losing sleep, marriages under strain, and people feeling ashamed. And, you know, unfortunately, with a lot of legislation problems, it isn't always kept up to date. Some people need to fight for the today's changes. 10 years ago, we didn't have Netflix. It's a new expense. You know, these type of things, it's something simple like that needs to be taken into consideration, that changes need to be updated. And, you know, for over 15 years, I've seen good people go through difficult situations.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure the laws of yesterday is still valid today and is still there to protect the consumer. Because really, when debt counselling is utilized correctly, it really stabilizes the struggling but willing consumer that wants to pay but is struggling to keep up.
Yeah.
It helps them survive and it rehabilitates them back into the credit market. So actually, debt counselling has a lot bigger role. It's actually the baseline and the last resort to protect the South African economy as well. Because without an economy, without a consumer, then what do we fall back on? Who's going to pay the taxes? How are we going to stay afloat? And being president of DCGsa really allows me to raise the standards nationally, protect consumers, and ensure ethical practice. It's not about a position, it's about the responsibility. And, you know, any position only works with good collaboration, ethical standards, and trust built into that system that you represent.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk two-pots. Two-pot system. Come on, let's go. Hey, hot topic this one, always.
That was just a postponement of the inevitable in my, if I can summarize it.
Yeah.
But the two-pot system was implemented through the National Treasury and administered by SARS. And I think billions were withdrawn from this. And it created another tax avenue, which I think was the main aim. But also we saw a lot of consumers. So it had two sides. It need to bring the positive part, which is, you know, people are able to pull from their pensions. But the concern that government saw before that is thousands of people take early retirement to pull all of their pension out, to settle their debt, to try and survive. And then actually they became a burden to the state because they needed to live on such a pension. So the concerns is many consumers use their retirement funds for short-term debt without addressing the long-term affordability.
Yeah.
So what we really see, and it came out a lot afterwards, is consumers withdrew the money, but they couldn't settle credit cards. Yes, it bailed them maybe with the arrears or with 2 months payment, but they didn't settle their debt and close the accounts off. No. Majority of the time, it was just buying them 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, there wasn't much that they could pull off. But it tells us something very important. This is a structural debt issue in South Africa, that most of this was used towards facilities, towards credit cards, towards overdrafts, towards all of that short-term predicaments.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we move forward?
Yeah.
And there's a scripture that speaks directly to this. Proverbs 21 verse 20. It says, the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. Retirement savings were meant to be stored provisions. When we consume tomorrow's security to survive today without fixing the structure, we create future risk. This isn't about guilt. It's about wisdom of moving forward. Don't use something that is meant for your olden day.
Absolutely. Now, Casper, what's the real issue here? You know, because you've spoken about how people haven't really made the wisest decisions when it comes to tapping into that two-pot system. Why can't they? Why can't they close those accounts? Why can't they settle those debts and live a life free of essentially worries like that Hakuna Matata will say?
If only it was that simple, eh? If only it was that simple. Hakuna Matata, all my debt is gone. No, it doesn't work like that. Quick fixes doesn't really fix anything.
Yeah.
In fact, in most cases, it creates bigger problems. So the real issue that we saw clearly was affordability pressure. Interest rates rose sharply. If we think in 18 months, a person with a 2 million rand home loan and a 500,000 rand car, which one looks, it's probably an average household situation, suddenly needed to fork out an extra 8,000 rand per month.
Yeah.
Then we haven't looked at the rates. We didn't look at that fuel prices that rise so drastically. I mean, a basic loaf of bread jumped from 15 rand to over 22 rand in a matter of 2 years.
Yeah.
So the inflation rate and the interest rate and the food and the fuel cost increase, and then credit became a survival tool.
Yeah.
So many people are legally over indebted. And I mean, we saw the stats now. I mean, the major credit bureaus are reflecting this. Over 10 million people are in arrears with at least one credit agreement for more than 3 months. 10 million out of the 23 million credit active consumers. So almost half is over the edge. And then you throw this two-pot system at them and say, here's a lifeline. And how much of that did they need to pay tax on? Because then they pulled it out. So suddenly, that what is caused the lifeline has just added tax. You couldn't settle anything because it wasn't too much that you could pull out of there. But people use it because they were desperate, because they couldn't get credit anymore. So where do they run to? The two-pot system was the answer, even though the implementation of it is a long-term goal to stop people from utilizing their pension funds for what happened in the past. So some of the idea was great. Unfortunately, in the time they implemented, it was a killer for many households that just extended that over-indebted problem.
Controversial question, Casper. Was this whole thing just another way to get more taxes out of the consumer?
That is my opinion.
No.
That is my opinion.
No.
But I think also, the long-term protection of the second pot, pot one where you can pull out.
Yeah.
Not a great idea, but I understand why. the long-term protection on the consumer, because sometimes we need to protect the consumers against themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that second part is to limit that damage that consumers have been causing on themselves. So yes, it was an extra tax part, but the long-term protection can be very good once we see that filter through. But obviously that we will only see in the long term. We take more people off of the state's pocket. And here's what most people don't realize: when you withdraw from retirement, you pay tax, you lose compound growth, and unless debt is legally restructured, interest really continues. So what are you doing? That's the question. So if somebody had 400,000 Rand restructured debt and withdraw 30,000, it may relieve pressure temporarily. And that's what we saw in most cases.
Yeah.
But it doesn't fix the root problem. And this is why education and proper advice with a proper financial planner is so important.
All right, Mr. President, what message do you have for South Africans? What do you want them to get from all of this?
Don't make financial decisions out of fear. I think that speaks to the heart of it, and get proper advice. There is proper financial advisors out there. There are legal protections and structured solutions available, but timing matters. Early intervention creates options. Late intervention limits those options. And like this, don't wait until the pawpaw hits the fan. Deal with it. If you see you are struggling, or you foresee you might be struggling in the future, the sooner you seek advice, the more options you have in our wonderful country. And we've got really good financial systems in South Africa. We can be really proud. If it wasn't for our financial systems, I mean, all the negative and corruptions we've seen through the media, through all of these panels and things, the one thing always comes through, and that is, if it wasn't for our great financial systems, South Africa would be in a very bad place. So why won't you use those wonderful systems?
So now, Casper, question. You say if you foresee that you might be in trouble, or if you foresee trouble ahead, then do something about it. But then how does one know that it's actually serious, the issue that they have?
Three crucial signs, Mr. K. Three crucial signs. You are using credit for groceries. I mean, that is...
Yeah, that is a clear...
And I mean, it happens so simply. And
Yeah.
and I'm not just talking, you might be swiping your debit card, but that debit card might be an overdraft. You might be swiping your credit card because you get interest free for how many days, but you can't settle that card end of the month. You dread phone calls from unknown numbers. I mean, you see people stress in the mall, their phone rings, and the eyes go wide. And if that speaks to you, that's you. You feel constant financial anxiety. Talking about finances, some people might have put off Link FM because we're talking about finances. That's how serious it becomes, that anxiety when somebody speaks about finances. It really becomes a psychological thing where they can't handle it. And maybe that is you. Maybe you need to see a professional on that. And stress has become the normal in South Africa, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be the norm.
Absolutely. And please don't tune out because you find yourself in a financial ditch. There's always a way out. There's always a way out. Casper, financial scripture?
Yes. On top of what we already discussed, let me close with this. Proverbs 21 verse 5 says, "The plan of the diligent leads surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty." I'm going to read that again. Proverbs 21 verse 5. "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty." Let's replace quick fixes with wise plans.
Yo, That is probably my favorite financial scripture. Yeah, I'm reading it again. I'm taking it all in. Yo, it's beautiful and practical. Love it. So, Casper, somebody listening right now thinking, yay, I'm drowning. I'm drowning slowly. What must they do?
I think contact DCGsa. Do a confidential financial assessment. That's always step one. Like, we really don't sell debt review. We really assess your situation properly and explain your options clearly. It's not give me a quote for debt review. That's not what we do. We are there to assess your financial situation. So give us a call, 086 100 1047. Pop us an email, help@dcgsa.co.za. I'm going to give that email again, help@dcgsa.co.za. Or WhatsApp us, 061 432 8499. 061 432 8499. Follow us also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, or TikTok. And if you have not got involved with our yearly golf fundraiser that we host in aid of Salem Baby Care Center, please do. It's a great cause, and we need each and every one of you to make this successful. Like Slimsy did, the amazing drink produced here locally supports its local charities, and we ask our community to also do so.
Absolutely. Casper, thank you so much for coming through. Brand new president, ladies and gentlemen, of DCGsa. Appreciate your insights and congratulations again. Listen, Big FM family, don't wait for crisis. Get the assessment done now. Cheers, Casper.
Have a blessed one.
See you next week.
See you next time.
Travel safe.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Proudly brought to you by DCGsa, finding solutions to your